Okay, so this is kind of an interlude between the Resistance series of the New Champions, which just what I guess technically finished up last session when the team successfully took out Gigaton with punctuated by the knockout punch of Liliana. Well, not really a physical punch, but mental punch of Liliana, spirit punch of Liliana. Um, the team took Gigaton back to their interdimensional prison. Um, and subsequent to that, uh, we're going to do some investigations on the Superior Five, which is a supergroup that they encountered at that last interaction. So tonight's session is called the Superior Five, and it's dedicated partially, at least, to kind of exploring about the Superior Five. But we're also going to spend a significant amount, probably more so than the Superior Five portion, exploring some of the characters' backgrounds and maybe some downtime or kind of intermediary between adventures time to time. A lot of the comics have that, where you kind of get a little bit of flavor about the characters. And I think in our sessions or series, we are heavy on the battle, and I figure maybe a little bit of flavor might be interesting. Not to say that I'm not prepared for battles. The backgrounds definitely lead to some of that, people's complications and things like that. So, but we're going to start at the top, um, and I've just wrote my notes out. So starting with Max, and I hope everybody's willing to be a little patient with me because I'm going to go through each character and do a little bit of vignettes, and we can, you know, participate together. But it's really going to be focused on one character at a time. I'm going to try to limit them to 5 or 10 minutes max. And if the scenes themselves devolve or get into a battle or whatever, or maybe even one of the characters wants to call out for help from one of the others, they can totally. But the individual pieces are going to focus on one character at a time.
No problem.
So we're going to start with Max. So maximum resistance. And if you don't mind, Max, just give a little bit of intro, maybe for folks that haven't been watching all along, but who Max is, what his power set is, what he looks like, that kind of stuff. And if you're on the board, ping where it is, and I'll do a close up on him on the board.
Yeah, I'm over by my character.
Yeah, I'll zoom in over there. Ooh,
You can make him bigger if you want to.
yeah.
Um, Max is a college student slash lab physics lab flunky at Millennium City University College. I don't remember which it is. One of the two. The school there, and that's what he spends a majority of his time doing when he's not out trying to save the world. His powers revolve around physics, of being able to manipulate things at the subatomic level. He can create lightning by changing the ionization. He can create force, magnetic force. His armor is actually a manifestation of force around him. Um, and he can see, in air quotes there, the full electromagnetic spectrum. So everything, gamma rays, down, infrared, ultraviolet, the whole thing.
Awesome. Max is one of the original, the OG members of the New Champions, and was approached by Socrates and had I remember one of the very first meetings in the park. It was like an abandoned baseball park where Runeforce and Max met together and agreed to work together. So Max has been around for a long as a team at least a year in game time. So lots happened in that year. Um, so Max has been going to school, continuing the secret ID up, um, and on the off times participating with the New Champions missions. But in one of your classes, it was a science class, physics maybe, your professor has decided to do a case study on the likely molecular chemical processes occurring in, uh, and the class is just ecstatic about it, but the molecular chemical processes that are occurring inside the terror suspect. And she calls this person Electric Blue. Um, she puts a big screen, an image up on the screen, and it's an image of Max's in character. I don't know that they would have a reason to know you were called Maximum Resistance, and so
Probably not.
they've given you a name. They're calling you Electric Blue, and there's a big hush in the room as the physics students that are beside you are just ecstatic to get to study Electric Blue and what his what's happening whenever he does his things. They're terrified as well. Some kind of gasps as well. The professor has enough video footage available, and she projects it on screen. Several instances of Max doing an electrical arc, and then there's actually like a close up somehow where she's examining and she's doing like measurements of the diameter of the arc that comes out of Max and the aura that comes around, and making several different scientific notes and assumptions that happen. And the class is kind of just like popcorn questioning and hypothesizing. That's the first finger of scotch. What would you say? Anyway,
hypothesizing.
Thank you very much about how Max does what Max does. And then she states with some excitement that she has been able to obtain from NAGA, which is the military police force, several drone feeds. One from above an old fairground where Max is entangling several foes in attempts to fight against some mutants who've kidnapped a teenager. This is all happening in the class. Max is seated or maybe standing around a physics table, those black science experiments tables. How does Max feel about this? How does he react? Does he react?
Tries to keep very calm and just go along with the class, and really just tries to be one of the class. I probably ask a question. Well, what about this? You use this equation here to calculate the energy output, but what are you taking this into account? And
does Max have any like acting or persuasion or any social skills that might help him feign this?
He does have 10 or less acting. He's got conversation, charm.
Oh yeah, whichever one you want to choose. Even do a complimentary skill roll first. That's cool.
Acting not so strong, but yeah, he's not bad with talking to people. We'll do the conversation.
Okay. Do you just want to go with the conversational, or do you want to use that as a compliment?
Yeah, that's fine.
So like maybe there's even a portion where you offer questions up and maybe like challenge one of your classmates and maybe even give it a little debate, but there's no semblance, like, because it could have been that you geek out and you act like you come across as way more than you should know about Electric Blue, right? But you don't, not in this instance. You make really cool conversation, really interesting conversation amongst the class and the professor. Everyone's really excited, and she assigns a 10-page term paper about theories of how the physics process of the electric arcs work or whatever. And then each student can make their own thesis on it. But at the end there is just a general Socratic discussion on the possibilities of his power source, tactics even, and possible methods for disabling his energy source.
I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, even hypothetical ways to capture him. Does that change? Do you participate even in that, or are you fascinated?
I definitely participate, and I might try to slide some misinformation in there if I can. Or at least alternate ideas that would be hopefully incorrect.
That's awesome, and because it could have some outcome, maybe make a applicable rule. Do you want to use conversation again on that, or charm?
Since it's not people of the opposite sex, and conversation is probably the best choice.
Unless you're trying to charm the professor.
Yeah, well, whoops, wrong button.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so you kind of give some counterpoints, something is clearly off, right? And the professor, after a few minutes of this kind of Socratic conversation going on, she responds, "Class, this is outstanding work. The NAGA agents may even put these suggestions into use one day soon even." So
That's exactly why I was actually trying to put some fake stuff in there. So if they do go searching for stuff on me, they'll find wrong stuff, at least a little bit, hopefully.
so the final portion of the class, um, there's an assistant or teaching assistant that wheels out a portion, like on a cart, those old like VCR cart, TV carts. She rolls out a piece of a building, or maybe it's a piece of the roller coaster, where they were out at the fairground, and they've wheeled it in, and she says, "This is this is the opus for our class today," and it's basically got residual of what Max must have hit with an electric arc or something like that.
It's got some residual max on it.
Yeah, whatever it would be for your character, whatever came out, right? And they are all getting specimens and like scraping off the edges, getting char, putting it under microscopes and researching, the after effects of interaction with electric blue. And everyone is just fascinated. What do you do?
I'm getting fascinated too because I haven't been able to dig into my powers at this level and really talk about it with other people. So I'm fascinated to hear what they have to say and learn as well. Not so excited that other people are learning this, but take what you get.
Do any of your powers, by chance, and I don't think they do, have invisible power effects?
My radio sense is not normally visible, but
But nothing
no,
bought expressly
N-
invisible power effects.
no,
Okay, great. I just
nope,
didn't want to disservice your character, right? Because
no.
they would be able
Uh,
to do this type of research they wouldn't be able to if you had invisible power effects. So,
no, I mean particularly the lightning. It's literally just lightning. It's I am changing the ionization and lightning arcs across to wherever I do that to. So,
awesome. Okay,
but yeah, so it would have lightning like effects.
very cool. So, that's going to go on. There's going to be plenty of time for research. Are there any particular things that Max would want to do? Just a bit of opportunity for you to narrative, um, after that happening, or even off-screen things that your character would want to be doing.
Would definitely be keeping an eye on the professor. I want to know a little bit more about them, perhaps. I mean, they apparently have connections with Naga, which is a little bit concerning. That somebody with connections to Nagas, I'm working this close with them. So,
Very cool. Okay, unless there's anything else, we're going to move on to the next little vignette. This is the next page of the comic book we flip over, and the next panel of it is it's downtown, and there is, kind of like whenever your big cities have big conventions, and they're welcoming whatever convention it is to town. And this is lots of welcome signs, maybe even a banner in downtown Millennium City that's across the street, uh, and it's Welcome Consortium of Applied Nanites, and
Oh,
it's
here.
it's called CAN, the CAN Society. Um, Apparently, there is a convention of scientists occurring in Millennium City. This is related to Sand Crab, of course, and the convention occurring in Millennium City is called Nanites and the Yellow Crab Man. This is a very creative group. Again, I don't think they would have a reason to know he calls himself Sand Crab. Is that right, Sand Crab?
Uh, I think when we had the devastation, there were news crews when we were saving people. He might have,
Did he
introduced
say?
himself when he was bringing victims to the hospitals. I think it would be in his oblivion to needing to not name himself, he would probably say, "I'm Sandcrab. I'm bringing you these people that are hurt." I would see him doing that. So there's a possibility if somebody spread that around, or if there was a camera crew there or something like that, that it could be out. Otherwise, no. I don't think he's ever talked to a news person besides that.
Okay, so we didn't know this, but there was a suppression field that was around that Chinatown area. So I don't a lot of but they wouldn't have been area hospitals though. So no, if you said it,
Then
yeah. Okay, but still, maybe they call it the yellow sand crab man. That's what they call it.
yeah, whatever.
Unless you don't want that, because obviously this is your character story.
No, that's fine.
Nanites and the sand crab. That's what they.
Whatever.
That's
Yeah.
what they're calling the convention. They're very creative.
My PR people are cooler, apparently.
Yeah, electric blue versus.
My question is only, how do they know it's nanites?
So they have footage, and so like, I don't know if you would you go, or would you somehow like secretly try to be seeing what the convention is about?
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
And if it's nanites, I think we have another hero on the field that's also nanite based.
is it Little Rocket?
I believe so.
No,
No, Rocket is not nanite based.
somebody else is nanite based. Oh, I know who it is. It's shoot.
Cypher?
Yep.
Okay. So no, maybe he joins with you.
It's also possible that Max is nanite based. I don't have that part of his back. The character doesn't know where his powers come from. That was one of the things that were a possibility, but he doesn't know.
Well, and anybody that you would want to join with you, Sandcrab, in civilian ID to go to this consortium, you could.
No, he doesn't share his secret identity with anybody.
Okay.
The only person who's ever seen him in a secret ID would be Cypher.
Yeah, and if you want to role play him in, you can, but he's not here, so.
No, we're good.
Okay, so you go, and they have plenty of footage, even close-up feeds, very close-up feeds of changes in the nanite swarm around Sandcrab at various events where the heroes have been less than discreet. And they're pointing out, someone's got one of those long, laser pointers where they're talking about nanite swarm and, the brilliance of the swarm and how that this is light years ahead of any technology that the consortium of applied nanites have seen. They're just very complimentary, but also like up in your business, There would be flyers around town. There's even one billboard.
I would imagine that the company that Rex Miller worked for would have some type of presence there.
That's awesome. You would know even that this consortium of applied nanites is a decidedly evil organization with ties to Dr. Destroyer. These are evil scientists.
Well, that's the government for you.
Yeah. So, there have been flyers around town. There's even a billboard. Maybe it's the same billboard. Oh, I got us focusing in on the wrong character. I get it focused in on Sandcrab. There's even an enormous billboard in downtown, with Sandcrab's face, but with exaggerated features, with like devil-looking red eyes, and he's got his claws extended, maybe even piercing through an innocent person. And there's like blood superimposed over his face and his claw tips. They're definitely making you out to be a killer.
Yeah, that's not good. But I think, being an older gentleman, Rex Miller would probably take that in stride, and he's gonna, just listen and see what else they're coming up with, what other fabrications they have going.
Okay, so will you go to different events on the convention agenda?
Oh yeah, for sure, and I'd probably be repping at our table too if we have one.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've got your own vendor booth, because of course it's part of the
Yeah,
industry.
our nanite scrub cleans planes better than anything else that there is.
That's awesome. There's like a mid to short line at your booth. So part of the convention's agenda includes an event called Awareness, identifying tunnel rubble.
Mhm.
They
That's
have
not good.
they have rewards and awards like give outs and things where at this event they will give out rewards for sharing information with the Can Society and the authorities when tunnel rubble has been identified. Which seems kind of interesting because this is a nanite conference, and then there is an awareness for tunnel rubble.
Hmm.
So how does Sandcrab respond to that? Does he do anything?
No, he will. He won't do anything. Yeah, he would just find it interesting and consider maybe using it less. But obviously, there's going to be a path. Just like if you walk across the lawn, there's footprints in the lawn. If you tunnel through the earth or through things, it's interrupted. So there's going to be a path, and it's something that he's worried about before. Never seriously because it hasn't been like really public, but now it seems that it will be.
So at the end of this event, there's a kind of a mixer where you can, all the different vendors and all the different, the attendees go and talk. Does Sand Crab or does I can't remember Sand Crab's secret ID, but does Sand Crab's
Rex Miller.
does Rex attend the mixer?
Yeah, he would do that. Just because he could use some of his. I mean, he's not really a socialite or anything like that.
Yeah.
But as a scientist, he could definitely fit in, and he could probably use his deduction skills and his bureaucratics to maybe, you know, steer in the whole meeting in a direction that would be better for him. Whether it's making like tracking him through tunneling being a waste of time because it's too costly for by the dollar to do that or whatever.
Okay, so I think those are two different things. Deduction and bureaucratics. Will you make both rolls?
Yeah, okay, sure. Let's see. Skill rolls. Oh, too far.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so are you doing the bureaucratics one? Oh, fantastic. That's great. Okay, so while I'm talking through the deduction one, think about like any information you might want to plant in your kind of your conversations with the heads of the association, different consortiums, and leadership. But in the deduction role, maybe even just by different clues and agenda topics, and even maybe even bullet points on the presentation of the keynote speaker, you can deduce that um, maybe even sponsor. You see some of the bronze level sponsors. Enough of them have links to different, what you would consider evil scientists that you know of, or their corporations. This is an event that has got a lot of money put into it by both Destroyer and companies that he's associated with, but more so than that, more evil scientists that you've come across that kind of have a bead on you in your past and your past research.
Okay.
Funded by people who are pretty much after you.
Gotcha.
So that's deduction, and that's a lot of like, curious industry. I think I've known them before, or I've seen them before, and you maybe check it out and you go, oh, yep, that's on my list. Right? You know these companies. A lot of kind of indirect references, but you get there from your deduction. On the bureaucratics role, even better role. Maybe you get an opportunity to kind of sidle up next to the chairman of the, or would you even do this? I don't know if you would, but you're kind of clinking drinks with these folks, and you get an opportunity to plant some information, what would you want planted from
Uh,
these leaders?
Ultimately, I mean, if I have a really successful bureaucratics opportunity, I'd like to make them pour a bunch of money into trying to track him wastefully, so that those resources can't be used to track him in a more serious way, or hamper any other members of the group that also might be coming into limelight.
That's
So
awesome.
Sandcrab is pretty smart. He has extremely high intelligence.
Mhm.
So this could, I can make a roll if you want. This kind of a thing could just instantly be obvious to him.
Yeah, so you're going to get the opportunity to sidle up to anyway, up to the people in the know. And they're listening to you, and I think that's fair enough for a good bureaucratics role, just to be in the circle at the table, talking to the people. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
get some knowledge on what's going on, and if they, and maybe they might ask me my opinion on something, and I might say, well, if I had my computer here, unfortunately I can't show you the figures. If they offer me one of their computers, if it's um, a possibility where I could use it for a minute, I could give them some examples, and maybe even accidentally get into some files I'm not supposed to be in. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be in there.
uh,
Remember, he has his his perk. He's never been able to use it, but basically all the passwords for Naga are obvious to him. He they're it's childish how simple their passwords are. So he can always figure them out like first try.
that's such a
Um,
cool bit. Okay, so so that whole scene plays out, right, where they're just wrapped around your fingers. It's like maybe you touch on enough of nanite swarm and you feel like you could show them something that throws them completely off, right? And but the only way you can do it is through a visualization software. And the one guy, the chairman, is like, I actually have that I have that visualization software. Can you show it? Right? Please. Here's my
yeah.
computer. Let me show it.
And so he would get in there and start showing it, and then he would slip in to a file accidentally. Maybe since he has eidetic memory, he would be able to memorize it instantly and read it before they could even possibly read it. He could just flash through it, right? Because of his lightning calculator and speed reading, all that stuff. He could just catch it real quick and then close it, and then go, oh, and then the end finally saying, and that's how our cleaners work.
Okay, make the roll. Let's see if you can actually do it. What is the appropriate roll for that? Do you have like computers or
He does.
okay, yeah, that's a good one. Don't critical fail.
Yeah, that would be bad.
That's how our cleaning services work.
Let's see. Computers. Perceptions.
Little
Science
rocket,
skill.
you're coming up next, little rocket.
Alrighty.
Teamwork. Where the heck is the computers? Oh, there it is.
Oh no! What?
I'll use my hero points to make that a success.
That's awesome that you actually did that.
Yeah. I'll use 5 hero points to make that a success.
Okay,
By
that's
2.
okay. Okay, so you are able to just almost trip a canary in one of his security features, right? And you all of a sudden realize, oh, that's a trap link. Or, oh no! And so who did we just lose? We lost
Dirty Bird.
Oh man, is he still on?
I might still be on Discord, but
Yeah, you're still on Discord.
Yeah, he's just
He's muted.
muted, but not on tabletop. Okay. So anyway, you see it. You stop yourself at the very last second, in order to have a visualization running for him, showing him some kind of interesting looking swarm. But in the background, you've opened like a telnet that's very well hidden onto his machine.
All right, great.
And for those that are not, maybe your field is that already, but for Telnet, you've basically got a backdoor into his
Right, yeah.
into his machine. Okay, anything else that you would want to try to accomplish before we move on?
No, he's risked enough at this point. He would take in more information, and he's he's going to be wondering about the others, obviously. Since do I need to make an intelligence roll for that?
Wondering about the others. I'm sorry, I don't follow.
Well, he's he's like stupid smart, right?
Uh-huh.
So if he's in the limelight, the other members may also be coming in the limelight, or already be in the limelight. So that's something that he might be able to figure out as a deduction by just his raw intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm. And I don't even think you need to roll that. He's just that connection is made.
Okay.
You assume it right now, and of course at the end of the when you
Well, I assumed it because I just saw you play it out with one of the other players. So I don't want
yeah, but I mean,
I don't want to. Yeah.
even Sandcrab would know Holy Night if I'm, this is a convention basically targeted at you.
Right.
Surely there are others, sure, that you haven't been any less discreet than anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Little Rocket. So Little Rocket is in a restaurant in Millennium City, eating one of his 12 meals of a day. You do at least eat 12 meals a day, right? I think.
Yeah, at least.
But today, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, he does have to eat 4 times what everybody else does. So yeah, probably 12 meals and several snacks.
Today, though, in your favorite restaurant, several armed agents storm into the restaurant and announce that no one should be alarmed. We are only here for Jim and Nancy Townsend. Step out from the back of the shop and come with us peacefully. After a few minutes, Jim and Nancy do not come forward, and the agents take 3 patrons of the restaurant, grab them, point their weapons at their backs. Once again, we are only here for Jim and Nancy. Don't let these good people get mixed up in the problems you've created. What does Little Rocket do?
Oh dear.
Okay, well, yeah, oh dear.
Favorite
First,
restaurant. Jim and Nancy are like family to you.
yeah. Well, he's going to, as soon as they pull the guns out, he's going to dive under the table. Go ahead and switch into Rocket. Kind of look under there real quick, underneath some of the different. What he wants to do is find a path under a couple of tables, so that he can appear from under a table that he wasn't at, and
So is he gonna be crawling under tables?
yeah.
Okay.
Crawling very quickly.
Well, and he is a small person, so I mean he would be
Yeah,
able to.
I get a +2 because I'm small and I do have stealth.
Okay, you want to make the appropriate rolls?
Okay. Succeeded by 2 on my stealth.
Okay. So you are able to kind of crawl underneath the tables. They're not paying attention to you at all. You were just at a back room, you had a table at the back of the restaurant. No one was paying you any mind.
Yeah. All right. Then he is going to get within distance, and he's going to attempt it's going to be hard, but he should have surprise on top of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe I ought to try the power tricks. Basically he's going to try to triple. There's 3 of them with guns.
Yep.
Okay. I'll try to hit all 3 of them and do I'll take that.
Oh, so you're gonna take their weapons?
Yeah.
So
That's basically a multi-attack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. These are not mooks, but not much above it.
Okay.
They're armed, but they're not armored like your these agents y'all have been fighting. I should have given you that warning beforehand. At least you're just disarming them, though.
Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna attack. I just at first I want to disarm.
Okay. So go ahead and make the multi-attack rolls to hit 3 of them. Wow, that's a good roll.
Well, I think the first one hits.
Yep.
And the second one most likely. That one would be close.
Yeah, and what is that? 3, so that's a -6. The third one does not lose his weapon.
Okay. Well, he's got an 80 strength for disarming.
Well, but you don't hit him. That's what I mean. Like, you
No,
don't-
Actually,
I'm not hitting.
-4.
Say again?
It's only a -4, but it's -4 on all 3 attacks.
Okay, well then that would have hit. That would have
okay.
hit him on the third. I was counting it -6 for some reason.
Thank you.
Okay, so and I'm not going to make you roll since you have the disarm strength. I also love it that in the image of Little Rocket, he's breathing. I didn't notice that until I blew him up really big. I'm looking at him. That's cool. So yeah, so you disarm them all. You take their weapons. What do you do after that?
Back under a different table.
Okay, so they would see you, or would they not see you? Do you move that fast that they would have not noticed you? I think they would have seen you.
Well, he does have the color behind him, so there would have been a rainbow flash.
Yeah, they would have seen something that happened, and you didn't buy invisibility with that.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not invisible, so
No.
they see it, and so
No.
they're like, "What in the world is this? Where's my gun at? What is this?" And they're looking around trying to find where you went. And one of them spots kind of the end tail of the rainbow blur and kind of runs in that direction. But you've kind of moved out of the way, so they're kind of in disarray. The situation isn't fully resolved yet. But they're still in the building, and they're screaming and looking for their weapons and all that kind of stuff. How are you going to handle it?
Okay. Well, let's drop an entangle on him.
Okay. Okay. Can you do each of them? And honestly, you've got so much more speed than them. You could entangle each of them, and I'm not going to get into battle phases, but that's just how you resolve it, right? You entangle all 3 of them.
Yep. And while I'm doing it, I'm going. I'll yell out, "Everybody!"
I didn't hear it. You yelled everybody out of the building?
Out. Yeah.
Okay. So you've successfully entangled these guys. They're not getting out. Jim and Nancy never came out. They're in the back. You obviously know where they make all their food. They might have even shown you around because you eat there so often, you know.
Yeah.
Do you want to go check on Jim and Nancy?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back under my table, change back into Jerry, and make my way into the back as Jerry.
Okay, why don't you make your another stealth roll? You've done a lot of commotion, done a lot of screaming, hiding under that table again. Okay, so you're fine. You change, you go back into the back, and you find Jim and Nancy, and they are just shaking with fear. What do you say to Jim and Nancy?
Why do you think they're here? What's going on?
They say to you, we're so afraid, but surely you won't turn us over to them because they're just confused.
No,
right?
of course not.
He says, we've been giving money to the resistance to protect us. And they're not sure, but they say that they think their son, Joey, is part of a militia. But they haven't heard from him in a while. And they think that Joey's been taken to what they call, and what the agents call, an education facility.
Oh, lovely.
And they think maybe if they had been taken today, they would have been taken to an education facility.
Like re-education facility.
I didn't call it. This is
well, no, he's saying it.
Oh,
Welcome
okay.
to this United Soviet States of America. Uh,
Yep.
come on, let's get out the back.
Okay, they'll follow out the back with you. And I assume you're gonna try to take them somewhere safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you would want to do before we move on to the next?
Yeah. Conversation on the trip. It's like, he'll pull some money out of his pocket. He's always got lots of pocket change.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, here's a couple thousand or whatever. Get out of town.
Mm.
I'm gonna miss your food. I'll do what I can to try to find your son.
Oh, that's a big promise there. You could see they're in their tears. They hug you. The old man Jim even calls you son. You might be older, but he's you're a smaller person, so he's just that it's not mean. He's just thankful, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, son.
Yeah.
And he says, when we come back, meals on us. And he
I would hope at least one.
So they head off into the sunset. That they've been saved. Little Rocket has saved the innocents from the persecution of the U.S. Soviet no the gendarme agency, the military police. Okay, very cool. We're gonna move on to Ghost. So Ghost, one of the things that you told us about your character, and maybe tell us a little bit about your character before I get into this, because this is a complicated story, and why Ghost is the kind of the way she is, right? The can't speak, but also doesn't know a lot of the idioms. Maybe share a bit about that.
Ghost is actually originally a member of the original New Champions, but not in the guise of Ghost. She was known by something else, and something terrible happened, and she was unable to reconcile it within her rather young and naive mind, and she decided to end it all. She wanted to see how truly invulnerable she was, and it turned out that, much as she expected, she was not as invulnerable as perfectly invulnerable. Anyway, she flew into the sun, and that was the end of hope. However, turns out that there's more in the universe that meets the eye, and some things are more than we think they are, and so is the case with the sun. The sun itself has an element of sentience to it, and seeing as Hope had sacrificed herself to the sun, the sun took it upon himself to right, thank you, I have an avatar. Now she's not strictly, she's not a manifestation of the sun. She is basically, the sun took the potential that was within Hope and brought it back in a manner so as to serve his ends. Here I am giving a gender to the sun.
It's fun.
Yeah. But it's not Hope that came back. It's something else. It's very much a manifestation of a cosmic force that's in the guise of Hope. It doesn't look like her because, well, it's part of the nature of that cosmic force. There's a certain interdimensionality in her nature, and it doesn't permit light to reflect. Light just passes right through her, and her, what she looks like is quite literally what the universe would look like if you were looking at it from the heart of the sun, minus the sun. So you can actually walk around Hope, and the starscape that you would see from that perspective will shift as if you were looking elsewhere into the galaxy. And regardless of where she is or how fast she's moving, the window that she presents to the universe still reflects the same starscape. In any case, she remembers nothing about Earth culture, about what it is to be human. She is quite alien. She has been in the process of learning what it is, how human culture functions and what it is to be human. And she has not got much past children's books, like Jack and Jill Go Up the Hill to Fetch a Pail of Water. Very recently, in her explorations of various bookstores, she has discovered comic books, and that's on a level that she can understand. It's sort of the next step up from those children books. And so she's been haunting while wearing a burqa, a number of comic book stores. And she presents a rather strange figure in that burqa. Moves somewhat funny, but she's also very, in a burqa. You don't walk up to a woman in a burqa and start chatting.
Yeah.
Well, at least most people don't. And so for the most part, she's being left alone, even though she's standing in the corner of this comic book store reading all the comics. They don't quite have the heart or know how to tell her that this is not a library and you're not supposed to stand there and read all the comics.
You're gonna buy
A few
anything?
times
Yeah.
she has been confronted, she has just quietly left and found a different comic book store. And that's what's been going on with Ghost of late.
That's awesome, and a really awesome description too of how she appears and like the transition from the previous uh, superhero into Ghost and what Ghost is. So um, maybe while she's in the comic shop or maybe walking down the street toward the comic shop, there is a television. Maybe in a store or even in the comic shop, they have a television on, and periodically
Miranda.
periodically news will kind of bulletin over whatever movie or kind of cult classic that they're playing in the comic shop, but the
Mhm.
news will bleep over and tell different things that are happening in the world, right? Crisis in Sudan, or famine in the the eastern United States, or just different crises, struggles that are happening, poverty, immigrations, uh, you know, revolts and uprisings and being crushed and this and that. What does Ghost think about the struggles and the conflicts of, quote, Earthlings?
She finds it all very, very confusing and quite contrary to uh, the purpose for which she was put on Earth. She doesn't have a clue as to how to go about combating most of this stuff. Her understanding at this point is if she sees somebody harming another human being, she will attempt to stop them. Uh, she is in the company of heroes, and if they tell her that they have a mission, she will do her damnedest to fulfill that mission. But her level of understanding in terms of, what's going on when there's a war or why there's a famine or what to do about it, these things are beyond her understanding at this point.
So
That's a slightly dangerous situation because, truth be told, if somebody gained her trust and started to tell her how to deal with these things and told her the wrong stuff, she might actually become a force for evil, quite inadvertently, at least until she figured out what was going on. So I'm not sure she's aware of this, but she's trying to be careful in her explorations of the world and her understanding of it.
okay, so it's a interesting confusion is the thing I take away from that, and but maybe some caution as well. It there's a there's a news report that comes on maybe that day that you're describing, the last day where she's um, reading all the comics books, but the news comes on and it's a report of basically about heroes and terrorists, and it's got some flashed up images of some members of the new champions, maybe even some of the people. Maybe you see a replay of the vanishing of some of the heroes that you previously fought alongside. That they are now vanished, and it's replaying that. But they're being called terrorists. Is Ghost able to discern that the news is spreading propaganda? Yeah, I'll ask that. Does Ghost know that?
She's been introduced to the concept of subliminal messages from the first time she discovered children's books. So she's not unfamiliar with duplicity, but she would find it very hard to navigate that duplicity, to understand what is true and what is false. For that, she would probably fall back on Socrates. She'd just call, and say, "Is this something I need to be concerned about?"
Okay.
She can do that silently through her through radio.
Okay, so there's a conversation, and Socrates, in my best British accent, says, "Good afternoon." Oh, I'm terrible at it. Good afternoon, Ghost. How can I help you?
I am confused. I'm seeing on the television that we are apparently terrorists. Yet, as far as I know, we have done no harm. How do I address this dichotomy?
And Socrates says, this is common, becoming much more common." And he goes into a long definition of what a terrorist does, basically striking fear in those through physical danger, using violence to bring about a common end or an end that is opposed to the greater good. A very logical definition of what a terrorist is. And he asks,
Her.
Ghost,
Yeah.
does that sound like what we
Ghost
do?
can understand logic. She doesn't understand Earth culture, but logic will work with her.
Yeah. And he asks blankly, does it sound like you are a terrorist?
No. I do believe we might be striking terror in NAGA agents, but that is certainly not a general terror.
So he asks then, so what must the news reporting be?
I would hope the news reporting would be the truth.
But in this instance, and he pauses. And if Ghost doesn't finish the statement, he will say, "This is not the truth." Is there anything else I can help you with, Ghost?
Do you know a good bookstore with a large supply of back issues of comics?
He does. He he references one. I'm going to steal one from my comic area. He references the third planet, on down the street and across the alley, and then he references Nan's across the way. These are Houston bookstore comics that I go to or used to go to. Nan's is a great comic shop, and with that, he closes the connection. So maybe you're going to go to those different comic shops, and right as you're about to,
Yep.
there's another. It's almost like this investigative journalism, and maybe the comic store owner just digs the kind of the villain, the bad guys, so he keeps it on this investigative news channel where they kind of like do how to catch a murderer and all this stuff. So he's like lots of reports of the terrorists and the villains and the bad guys, which is what you are. So, at least to them. So, as you're leaving, a video of they do an expose, basically. Or it's not an expose, it's almost like a documentary of a young woman with blonde hair talking about events from like a self-recording that unfolded some 12 months ago, and she's got like a handheld video recording. And it's this young woman with blonde hair in a coat and a kind of a mask or a hood over her, and she's crying and pleading, and she says, "I'm sorry, I just can't do it. I can't see how someone so stupid and careless as myself could possibly be the world's hope. How could anyone ever trust me? How could I ever trust myself? Why would anyone ever think they could have faith in any of my actions? Surely this is familiar to you. I'm reading what you've written. It goes on, the video. This is basically the video of Hope and her last moments, and the regret and devastation that she felt after everything that happened. In the very last moments of that video, it reads, and this is something Pen Piper written, so I'm reading from that. It said, Hope dons her costume one last time, then goes outside. And this is all on the video, or it's maybe caught on news cameras or something like that. She stares up at the sky, gathering what resolve remains, then she takes off. In 3 seconds, there's a sonic boom. At the 10-second mark, she breaks the atmosphere. She continues to build speed, doubling every 2 seconds. At 40 seconds, she reaches light speed and goes tachyonic. 15 seconds after that, in the heart of the sun, she drops out of tachyonic. That's part of the documentary, and maybe it caused you to pause, and you as you were walking out, you hear that. And the final words of the news reporter, the investigative journalist, is just kind of this disgusting voice, and he says, "Justice has been served." And that's the end of the segment. What does Ghost think about this? And I know there's a disconnect between Ghost and Hope. I'm not trying to connect the two, unless you prefer to, but I'm just curious. What does Ghost think about Hope's last moments?
Gee whiz. Ghost would find that the investigative journalist's logic was faulty, and that that the journalist made a mistake in portraying as much of Hope as he did, and that the truth, nonetheless, for those who can understand logic, would come out of that.
So she would see that as an injustice, even his reporting, like he misrepresented.
Yeah. The journalist is obviously engaged in disinformation. That much she can understand now. But from what she's seen, from what the journalist showed, she would come to the conclusion that any rational human being watching that, keyword being rational, would come to a different conclusion than the journalist.
Okay. And the first time seeing Hope, does that do anything for Ghost?
And not in the immediate moment, but it would sit in her subconscious for sure.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to investigate about this moment before I move on to the next person or final person?
I think all she would do at that point is to look around to see whether anybody else was reacting to that.
Yeah, what's so funny is they would have all been heads down in their game, in their magic game or whatever. Like no one paid attention to that except for her.
Okay. She would take note of it and probably put the comic books back into their place and slowly leave.
Okay. Thanks for going there with me. I know that's kind of some of the heavier parts of the backstory for Hope and for Ghost, but I think it's really interesting stuff. So thanks.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Yep. Okay. Liliana, 30 Bird, are you back with? I think you are, right?
I am. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So Liliana wakes from this terrifying nightmare to maybe a television or a radio broadcast or wherever maybe the television is on or left it on for the night before, something like that. And there is the terrifying nightmare, but you wake up and there is a television report of a devastating attack on lesser known, still very important members of the royal family. The news report reads, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, and his wife Catherine were convicted publicly and executed for treasonous actions this morning. And then it's kind of like in the outlandish style of a news report, is the Queen next? And then it goes to the kind of some segment, like a commercial or something like that. Is there something about this that would interest Liliana?
Well, she sleeps as Victoria. Not many people here know her. She's actually Victoria Kingsbury, but her official title is Lady Victoria Marina Alexandra Ophelia Windsor. Kingsbury is her stage name.
Oh dear.
She is a member of the royal family. Prince Edward may not exactly be direct relative of hers, but her father is Prince Michael of Kent. So yes, obviously this is extremely unsettling, especially if the royals have fallen the wrong side of those who are in charge.
Is she close to the Duke and Duchess at all?
I'd have to get back to you on that. No.
Okay, no worries. But maybe
No,
is she emotional about this? They
absolutely, because it is still family, whether she's close to him or not. Megan and oh gosh, I forget his name. Are
Harry.
closer to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, are closer to her age and have faced similar ostracization as she has. Their family, due to her mother, is actually Catholic, which kept them out of the line of succession in the royal family until I think it was 2009 or 2013. So them giving up their place in the lineage is quite the opposite of what she's gone through in her life. But either way, it is still family. And, normally with her, the nightmares end when she wakes up. But this is definitely devastating news. She's got to make a call to her father.
So I can imagine kind of like any devastating news report while it's kind of on in the background. You stand up and kind of watch it. They're reporting on it and getting different people's perspectives. And do you continue to watch a little bit of what's on the television?
Yeah, she begins pacing while she's trying to reach her father.
Yeah.
Waking up in the morning, where he is, it would probably be early afternoon, right around tea time or something.
Okay, so it the news kind of like tunes in live. So maybe you're trying to dial him, and in the background now live with video execution of the video footage of the execution, and they zoom in. It's live. 3 heavily armed military officers are like operating a cannon, and they rotate this cannon, this enormous device around, and aim it at the royals who are like chained inside a makeshift prison on a stage. And there's a countdown, and there's a crowd, and the countdown comes from 10, and then at 3, 2, and 1, the crowd start chanting the numbers with them. 3, 2, 1, and then a blinding beam of light erupts from the cannon, disintegrating the aged royals, the royals within moments. How does that unfolding, right? It's a live execution with light just disintegrating them.
She can't watch. That's more than she can handle. It's she has to turn from the TV. She's crying at this point. We've seen executions before, but it's never been this close to home. No one had really cared much to challenge the family up until now. Obviously, things have changed for the worse at this point.
So the dial tone is continuing to ring, and it doesn't, right? So it rings and rings and rings, goes to voicemail. I assume you leave a voicemail, or do you not leave a voicemail?
Hey, Dad, it's Tori. Just call me.
Okay.
She leaves it in Russian.
Oh,
actually.
that's awesome. Okay.
Her father is a Russian interpreter due to his business, and she's learned a lot of Russian through him.
Very cool.
It's kind of a almost like a code between them that obviously something's amiss.
Okay. The news report would continue on, kind of in a kind of an explanatory, like they're reviewing the case, or the judge who pronounced the execution or something like that. I'm trying to find your character on the table. Why can't I?
Right in front of Pink.
In front of where?
Pink.
Oh, got it. Just gonna make her big.
Just looking up the royal family tree that I have saved. Prince Prince Edward.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Technically, that is her. Oh, God, I hate family trees.
I think most people might feel that way.
Father, grandfather.
Second cousin, twice removed.
They share the same great-grandfather.
Family trees are much easier in Alabama.
Yeah, they're almost
Well,
straight.
that same person appears 3 times in my trees, right? So the news report goes on, and they're kind of dissecting the decision and was it justified or should it have been, an education facility or this or that. And finally, one very wizened commentator comes on with kind of a piece of information that no one has had previously. And he says, Prince Edward and Catherine have largely avoided scrutiny in recent years, but were recently identified in leaked confidential documents as the primary financial supporters of a militia force known for carrying out terror attacks against Dr. Destroyer's chosen leaders in the United Kingdom. Their deaths are justice. That's his kind of key phrase. Would Liliana have known they were part of the resistance?
No, not at all. As I said, they are family, but they're not that close. It's not something
Let me see.
openly talked about.
Okay.
So would that have sparked your, who leaked the documents? Would you want to investigate this further?
That seems to, with what's happened to her recently with actually being in the rebel base and a link to her family causing something like this to happen, that's got to be a lead she tracks down. She's not much of an investigator, but, no time like the present to start.
Or maybe even an opportunity to ask for help from her newfound friends.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Anything else that Liliana might want to be doing during the off time? Obviously, this is a very pivotal moment, but anything else that she would have been doing in downtime?
You mentioned a convention in town. It's not the type of convention she attends, but she does sometimes attend sci-fi conventions as a guest due to her time. She was in Westworld and Doctor Who a few times. So every once in a while she gets invited to those. Some lesser-known movies, Bloodshot with Diesel. I don't know if Millennium City has the Motor City Comic Con, but that is something that we have here.
Oh, that's cool. So yeah, so you've been going to different cons and different festivals and things like that.
Every once in a while, she does interviews when there's new movies coming out. If it's around Christmas time, there's a new Christmas movie releasing. Father Christmas is back, I believe. So she gives interviews for that.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, well, I hope everybody enjoyed the little vignette time and a bit of the role play. We're going to kind of transition more into the investigative side of the Superior 5. Still not very battley or even on the theme of, not a theme, but the combat phases. But the last that you all interacted with the Superior 5, there were 5 of them, of course. But Little Rocket had noticed one of them, the Speedster, was it Little Rocket that noticed this? Someone noticed it, that he was very similar to Kinetics techniques. Little Rocket, was that you?
Rocket realized that, it looks like he's copied his abilities.
Okay.
But not,
The whole finger snap thing?
Yeah. So that was one similarity that you noticed. But I think I'll open up free if anybody wants to, new supergroup in town, what do you do to try to investigate who they are? Do you computer search? Do you book search? Do you internet search?
Well,
what do you do?
Yeah, definitely going to do an internet search on on sightings um, of similar things to, what Rocket does. Obviously, trying to pinpoint Runner or whatever his name was.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at what they were able to do and what he saw, just trying to see if there was some similarities.
Hmm. So you assuming you use the darker web to do this search,
Yeah.
you
Can I make a suggestion as well?
oh yeah.
Since Little Rocket noticed the similarities between the runner and Kinetic, maybe have Socrates run a cross check on them.
Yeah.
How similar are they? Kinetic was one of the champions.
Hmm. That's a good, and we could do both. Um,
Yeah.
and I'll do the search on kind of different sightings and stuff first, and then I'll do the Socrates look. But the search and sightings, you find some, right, and
Okay.
they are recent on the scene. So like the internet search doesn't yield much before maybe a month or two ago, and maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So they haven't been around for prior to the vanishing, right?
Right.
But they also didn't come onto the scene, or at least visibly, until the last maybe 6 months max.
Okay.
So you all have been operating longer, and if you just look for how long they've been operating, that's about as much as you see them.
Okay. I kind of want to triangulate where the sightings have been.
Uh,
Plot them on a map. See if perhaps we can find a more centralized location.
yeah.
I mean, I know we've been bouncing all over, not just Millennium City, but
Mhm.
all over.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. So you pull out the whole board and do the string and the yarn and the poke, what are those things called? Tacks. And
yeah,
who has deduction? Do you have deduction? And maybe you do, but you wouldn't have been here to know it. So you do that.
yeah. No, I don't have deduction.
So, but you put up the sightings, like you're putting it, or maybe you're putting it on a digital, pegboard or wherever. But
Yeah.
any of the original group with deduction, original
Probably
champions.
Sand Crab.
So I assume you all are working through all this together. Maybe we're all in the same group, just having a work through. Sandcrab, would you be? Well, yeah, y'all are all trying to figure out more about them. Maybe even having a round table session back at
Sure.
base.
Back
And
at base.
yeah, and so he's done this on the screen. Maybe roll deduction and see if you pinpoint this.
All right. So I can use a base bonus. Is that +1?
But I think of the base bonuses like using the labs.
That's right. I have my own computer lab bonus I can use. I'll activate the holographic computer system and use that for enhancing my searches and
Great.
figuring out what's going on.
So maybe you overlay that hollow screen over what he's doing to kind
And
of
highlight.
enhance.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah. Did you roll it? Okay. Yeah. It's clear. With the holograph over it, it pinpoints and like not perfectly central, but very close to centralized to all the places where their sightings are, is the abandoned psychiatric facility. Quote abandoned, really where NexHuman was, where you all stole the interdimensional prison. That seems to be the most central site that rings a bell to you.
So in all probability, they were people who were experimented upon there and managed to escape. and they're now out for vengeance.
Well, they definitely got the vengeance part down.
So Socrates does a search on Kinetic, and just the little video footage that you all have, or the captures that you all would have had, and he says it's almost exactly the pacing and the the energy signatures as Kinetic. He says if I didn't know better, I would say that was Kinetic reborn.
Child?
What's that? I didn't understand.
Would it have been his child?
Genetic manipulation.
He says, I don't have any records of Kinetic having a child. Surely it isn't. Even if he did, age, and he gets like, there's no possible way. It's a
Cloning, advanced aging.
He says,
Well, yeah.
Cloning.
I seem to recall that numerous supers escaped that psychiatric institution during the fracas,
Yes.
and that apparently some of them were recognizable as supers who had supposedly disappeared in the Vanishing.
Yes.
It is possible that part and parcel of the Vanishing was not so much vanishing from the universe, but vanishing from their superhero career and into a prison of sorts, so that they could be examined and experimented upon,
Educated.
re-educated. There you go, possibly, and that they may have been changed by the experience, but I suspect they could very well be the same person.
Socrates says, a terrifying possibility.
Socrates, because you run a match to see those other folks. Run a cross check against other people that vanished, similar abilities.
With the Superior 5 or just...
yes, with the Superior 5.
Yes, okay, so he says this is astounding. And he reads off kind of like, he puts like a bio screen of witchcraft on one left-hand side of the big screen in the main room, and then
which is magic.
And then to the side of it, the mage, the one who mind controlled Gigaton, and he's crossing and like he's drawing lines between attributes, and it's like a 72% match. And he says, interesting. Only a 72% match. I will process on this. And he does. He asks for any suggestions. Kinetic was a 100% match to the one known as Runner. But their mage of the group is only a 72% match.
Witchcraft have family?
Yes, and you can see him like cycling through and trying to like plug in matches, and none of them are fitting. And he's just cycling through thousands and thousands of different, possible variations of matches.
Perhaps your computer can't take a good hold of magic.
Well, they were being experimented upon in all likelihood, and it is quite possible that the experiments may have changed one or more of them, which would result in an imperfect match.
He says imperfect match. That's an interesting thought. Maybe even, and so he's like still like mashing partials now, not just witchcraft entirely or some other super villain entirely, but he's like, it's almost like the jackpot where he like they're spinning and spinning and spinning, and he's doing 2s and 3s and stuff. Well, finally, after maybe a couple of seconds, it's 72% match witchcraft and 28% match menton. And it's a perfect match, the blend between those two.
Huh.
The villain.
That's absolutely terrifying.
Yes, it is. Socrates.
Now, according to the records, witchcraft was a hero and menton was not?
That's right.
Menton was a big mental bad guy.
Hmm.
Was Menton vanished?
Yes.
Dr. D
Hmm.
saw him as a big potential threat.
Yeah. What are the percentage matches to the other of the Superior 5?
We'll go to the Gunner one next. And Gunner actually has like a social profile that, not Gunner himself, but like just the face. You can take, imaging, matching, and Socrates is able to pull up the name Randall Townsend. Um, and it's a deceased image, deceased scientist, and it brings up this, previously worked in NexHuman, the lab that was at the Asylum, but was killed in a lab accident early in the history of NexHuman. Um, so it's got that person's name as the majority of his DNA or whatever his kind of behavior set, face image, but the gun that he has, the energy readings, he's like trying to match on that, and which 100% matches to Sapphire, the energy readings from Sapphire.
But through a gun, not through. Sapphire was also female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the gun, it's not the person, just the weapon that the gunner guy uses.
So it
They're the
uses this.
original champion.
Yeah, it uses the same energy that Sapphire uses.
Yeah, and he's trying to match, just like fuzzy logic matching between power set, energy readings, facial recognitions on the individuals, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So perhaps the vanishing
Get her powers from some
was
other source?
Yeah, Socrates says an excellent possibility, but not one I'm able to. And he's like searching and searching and searching, and he's just coming up with dead ends.
What was the source of Sapphire's power?
Ooh, you would ask
Yeah,
that. I don't
that's
remember it
what
right now.
she has a necklace, if I remember correctly. Joe, as Liliana, has no clue.
I could look it up, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
So
he goes down the next ones. Do y'all want to look at the rest of the Superior 5 and kind of understand more about them?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the one that was the assassin, kind of the shorter one with the crazy glowing sword. And at this point, Socrates is cross-referencing NexHuman records, things that you all might have searched or Cypher might have connected. You all did connect into their systems for a period of time. Cypher did, at least. And this person her name was Esperanza Reyes, but he's able to find, and maybe the same with La Rocket searches for this one, she is actually going by a public name, Esperanza Oscura, which in Spanish translates to Dark Hope.
I thought we had one of those.
Touche. That was unintentional too. And he reads kind of the background of her. She was taken by the NexHuman organization from the slums of Mexico City. Her power set does not match any known or previously vanished or previously known superhero or villain. Possibly alien technology.
Hmm.
Alien technology.
Well, they're also experimenting on normals and
Right.
giving them powers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And screwing up a bunch of them. We saw those when they came running
yeah.
out. And what about the last one, the big guy?
Yeah. The German resistance fighter. He takes facial imaging and even just like records of just how enormously tough he is. Like, that's not hard to find. German resistance fighter Matthias Wagner, now known as Panzer, left for dead after a destroyed attack demolished his compound. NexHuman records attempted to be expunged, but were located by Cypher. NexHuman found him during a recon mission, looking for leftover technologies and supplies from among the destruction. Destruction from his compound. Panzer was apparently, or Matthias was apparently part of a resistance cell. The Germans were among the first to resist Dr. Destroyer, recognizing his reign as a new Third Reich. But in the destruction of his compound, Panzer was left for dead. He does matching, like the jackpot style, spinning around, trying to match. There's nothing. And, you can tell the matching is slowing down. And then finally it slows, and Socrates, if his voice could get deep or slower, Panzer's DNA is a 100% match for Grand.
Great.
Grond was a villain, but
Mhm.
Yes.
but here he's actively opposing the villains.
Grond really wasn't a villain. Grond was Grond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grond just did what
he-
Grond wanted, so
Grand was not necessarily super intelligent. He was not a mastermind.
Well,
That's-
and let's correct this. It's not a 100% match. It's like a 77% match. Majority match. But the remaining isn't identifiable. Not a 100% match. That just doesn't fit the
Do you
story.
recall Panzer having 4 arms?
I was gonna say he didn't no forearms and horns and yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of the underlying techniques and methods and moves, similarities.
Hmm.
So
Not
those,
as big.
those are the superior 5. A mishmash of genetically spliced heroes and villains, alien technologies and animal whatever, all kinds of things that have made a mess of some humans. And for those that don't remember, and maybe Socrates would have said it, that NexHuman was experimenting on like orphans and kind of individual people, the castaways from the slums.
Yep.
And was injecting them and just all kinds of crazy experiments.
I mean, one of these kids could have been injected with the Grond stuff,
Yep.
and that could be what we see there.
Yep.
But still, I mean, to have pretty much 100% kinetic match, that may actually have been kinetic.
Well, if we've got a 100% DNA match between Grand and Panzer, then wouldn't they be the same person?
No.
Yeah, and
He said it wasn't.
Yeah, I misspoke. There's no way it could be a 100% match. It's a significant match between attributes and behaviors, but more strength and toughness, that kind of stuff. So, this is
I misspoke earlier. Sapphire was actually a mutant. She didn't get it from a necklace.
there you go. Whatever they did, they took that mutation and encapsulated it into a weapon.
sounds like they somehow, either just before the vanishing or during the vanishing, genetic samples were taken.
Wouldn't be surprised
Possibly.
if the vanishing was just we teleport you from one place and going to put you someplace where we have you securely locked away.
Reminding, of course, that they had control of the dimensional prison back then. So if they were to teleport the supers into a dimensional prison cell, there'd be very little most of them could do about it. And from there, their essence could be extracted. They could be experimented upon. Who knows what?
And if one exists, it's like high likelihood more than one could exist.
Hmm.
Yes.
So Socrates speaks up and says, a very, what's the right word? Highly confidential program undertaken by the prior U.S. military to catalog the genetic material of powerful and influential superheroes and villains was undertaken. This may not be connected with the Vanishing whatsoever.
Your research is still going on.
Or this could just be the outcome of it.
As a player, Joe's going, hey, we just had some vignettes where these characters were seeing this research take place.
Yeah, I think this is even Socrates is seeing, maybe he even said the worst of fears. This was the highest of confidentialities, the security clearances. This genetic material, he was like, maybe he even says, but witchcraft didn't agree to it. And he says, I'm not sure, but I also don't think Kinetic agreed to it. This program.
They wouldn't have had to agree to it. They would have just had to get injured at a fight and somebody collect blood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a few more minutes. Any investigative lines that kind of how the Superior 5 is made, but there's a whole lot of connections here back to this Asylum and NexHuman and how they were genetically manipulating, which you all saw that, of course, and did not see any of these heroes or villains that are being mentioned escaping that day.
So do we think NexHuman is controlling them, or they've broken free from their grasp? I don't know much about NexHuman.
Yeah. Just so for the fill-in from the backstory, NexHuman was controlling some of the mutants, but they were able to break free, and the team kind of shut down their operation. They were doing kind of like a nanite control in people's brains with kill switches to make them. It was like they called it the Manchurian program, where they would experiment on these, supers or make supers and then control them to do things. And the team went up against them, defeated some of them, disabled the nanites. So, but the team surely stopped that program
at that location.
That's true. That is very true.
Well, the 5 that we're investigating have been identified as being like the nexus of their appearances has nonetheless been the old headquarters that we raided.
Right. Yep. And so, but we left that location. We didn't go back. We haven't gone back.
I'm thinking we might want to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we basically just left the place. So they probably returned to what they know.
Yeah. We do need to be clear, though, that we're not going in expecting these guys to be bad guys.
No, we are kind of expecting these guys to want to kick our ass, though.
Are we?
Yes.
Yeah, we kind of took Gigaton from them.
They wanted to kill him on the spot, and the team didn't allow it.
Yeah, and we ran away with him, and so they're not going to be happy with us.
No. Not in the least.
Now, there may be some of us that could go there that they aren't familiar with, that weren't at that fight.
Yeah.
Max was not at the fight. He was in your headsets, but he was not at the fight.
Ghost was not at the fight.
Ghost was at the fight originally.
But didn't participate in the capture.
Capture of Gigaton.
Yeah. But still, maybe guilt by association. That's
Yeah.
Was who wasn't at that fight?
yeah. Wild Thing was not. Cypher was not.
Cypher was.
Cypher was. Yep, you're right. Rune Force was. Phaser wasn't. Max wasn't, of course. Exo wasn't. So there's a handful of the team that could.
I think everyone who's here tonight, minus Max, and add Cypher, was at the actual fight, part 4.
So I'm wondering if we could send a group, or I could even be willing to go on my own, if people aren't available or whatever. But to talk with them, of course, we would have to agree beforehand our disposition with Gigaton, because they are going to want him back. And we know what they are going to do with him. That's just a given.
But you could explain that you have him securely locked up.
They don't care.
That
We
he has
told
no
them that's
chance
what we were going to do.
Hang on, let me finish. He is securely locked up. If we take him out of that lockup and present him to them to do their nasty, there's a good chance that in that process he would escape.
Because he's not unconscious at that point.
Yeah. I mean, right now he's going to be, he's facing life in prison, as opposed to the death sentence. That's not such a terrible fate.
Life. Life in the New Champions prison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I understand that. Do you think that's going to placate them? I honestly
depends how
don't.
evil and far gone these guys are. Right now they're fighting the bad guys, and for that, I don't really want to mess with these guys too much. As long as they're fighting, like, enemy of my enemy type thing, I want to keep them friends.
Well,
Or
perhaps
at
we
least quasi friendly.
Now that's not going to work for us, though.
Perhaps we
Because
investigate their connection to Gigaton. Why are they so hell-bent against him specifically?
He has killed a lot of their friends.
Understood. But maybe there's something more there.
Maybe. I don't think
A lot of people you know would probably be enough.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I mean, you're right. There may absolutely be more.
Public figures. I don't know if it's their friends per se, since apparently they've only been in existence for a limited amount of time.
As a group.
As individuals.
Yeah, they hadn't been appearing on any internet searches or anything like that for the last 6 months. But for the last 6 months.
Well, that's because they didn't exist in this form prior to that.
Or they were still under restraint. They'd been captured, and it was our actions that freed them.
So ask this: do they themselves know of their origins?
Well, and that's something we would have to deal with when we get there. But yeah, we probably want to come up with a list of what are the talking points we want to have, and not just walk up and start chatting. Actually, we want to set up a meeting, or at least go there with some intent. If we want them to come to our side, we have to talk to them and talk them into not gutting everybody they run across. Or we are guilt by association, and there you go. So we can't really work with them at that point.
We don't necessarily have to
agree
work
with that.
No, but we are indirectly supporting them if we don't do something.
Sandcrab would do what with that, you said? He would not agree or would agree?
Superior 5 actually killed anyone.
Yes.
They did. I missed that part. Sorry.
Hold on, I don't. They tried to kill Gigaton,
Right.
but we don't see in that battle them just.
Okay, in the last 6 months, have they killed anybody?
So that's a good question. So if you go through like some of their previous, you know, escapades or whatever, it's been mainly locations associated with NexHuman. They are raiding NexHuman locations. They are ruthless. Right, so they're
What information? How are we collecting this information from news?
yeah. So internet
They're
searches,
they're
video
another
feeds.
terrorist group.
Right, just like us. And if you look on the internet, I've killed people, says Sandcrab.
Oh,
So, what do you believe? I do
I'd
believe
point out,
and I agree with you that they're heavy-handed and need to be reined in. They need to be taught that, or at least explained or convinced that if they remain heavy-handed like that, they are stepping into the realm of what the problem is in the first place, where they could use their superior power and rein it in a little bit, will have more influence and gain more public backing and make a bigger difference in the long run.
I agree.
I'd like to point out that before we had that interdimensional prison, every fight we were in, we basically let the bad guys go so that they could continue their reign of terror. We had no way of permanently stopping these guys.
Correct.
Now, the Superior 5 here, as far as they know, have no way of permanently stopping these guys. They managed to put down Gigaton, for instance, and what are they going to do? All right, we beat him up. Now we're going to go home.
No,
Well, no,
they
because
had
Gigaton
the
is going
same
to continue
answer
the
Hope
murder
had.
spree.
They had the same answer Hope had. Kill them.
Exactly.
but is there?
And
They had no other solution. If you're faced with a mass murderer who's killing people by the thousands, and you do not put him down, you do not stop him permanently, you are guilty of all the following deaths for your lack of action.
And that's ghost logical speak to the group, right? That not obviously we've had this kind of chat side on our text channels.
yeah, is that Ghost or is that Hope still talking?
That's ghost logic,
Okay,
and it is pure logic.
so
But if we can explain to them that we have a different method of stopping these criminals permanently, then we don't need to kill them.
so Socrates will pipe up and say, are you suggesting that we offer our interdimensional prison as a shared or something, to share this with them instead of murdering their
What is the
I
capacity of the
don't see any
prison?
other solution. They're going to reach.
The
They're
dimension.
not going to accept the idea of they beat up a bad guy and then just let them go. That solves no problem as far as they're concerned.
Us telling them that we could lock him up made no difference.
Did we say that to them?
Yes, we did.
We did,
Yeah.
but how would they know that it could be believed, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
That exact same statement is going to be true when we go talk to them again.
Except for the fact that Gigaton's not out there anymore because he's still incarcerated.
But they're not going to know where he's at.
Yeah.
They're
He's a
just going to
pretty
have to
public-
trust us to say we have him in prison. You got to believe us because
Not really.
we can't
Not
prove
really,
it to you,
'cause
but we've got him in
Gigaton
prison.
wasn't like a secret agent or anything like that. He was a public figure that was part of the main force of Dr. Destroyer, who did things all the time in the public and wasn't secretive.
But who's to say we didn't kill him?
So there's this argument around the table, Liliana, where the new champions are clearly wrestling with how to, make peace with, or should they make peace with. There's a mention of an interdimensional prison where they have like indefinitely placed people they've captured. are talking through all these things in front of you. First of all, what do you feel? And do you speak up? Do you interrupt and try to call them on this? Or
It is hard to get a word in edgewise. One thing I am noticing is I feel like I'm sitting at a table with a Romulan, a Vulcan, several scientists, and an android. Does anyone here have any feelings?
Oh, Little Rocket, Socrates.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
We're
see, that's the
dealing.
point. I'm trying not to get people killed. I would like to not put people in prison forever because that's not just either. But we seem to all want to come to just one answer. We put them in prison, we leave them there forever, and walk away.
Not
Well,
forever, but
we
at least
leave them there
until we
until
come
we
up
can
with a
solve the
solution
problem of
for
vanishing.
Yeah.
holding them in a better way.
So
How many people can this prison hold?
it was large. It was like a cell block. I mean, probably 100 people max.
We could always add to it.
So the
As a whole
question
dimension.
is,
Yeah, that's true.
can you hold enough people until the actual justice system becomes uncorrupt?
There you go.
Oh, that's and Socrates would agree. Yes, this is only a temporary. Our mission
I
is
think
to
the
set it right.
sun will go out before then.
Oh no, Little Rocket. Well, first of all, before we
I'm
go,
disappointed to hear you say that. Actually,
before I ask Little Rocket, Liliana, would you have actually made those Star Trek references
Absolutely.
to the group?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So you pipe up and question this, and then call them all Star Trek names.
So what is the person with all
So I
the
guess I'm
feels?
Wesley
What's their
Crusher.
opinion?
What was your
So what's the person with all the feels? What's your opinion?
who's got the feels? Is it Liliana or
What-
Liliana, apparently, because all the rest of us are unfeeling Vulcans and Romulans and robots. So
She doesn't actually know Max at all, and she knows Sand Crab.
she's heard his voice. She probably hasn't even heard his voice.
And she's listening to Ghost Logic, and so her thought is, one thing you haven't considered is perhaps it's a personal beef with Gigaton, and he's the only one they would consider killing. We don't know. We don't know them. They're human. They're people. These are not black and white decisions. There are so many shades of gray in between.
Little Rocket, were you wanting to speak before I say something to wrap it up?
No, he's Rocket's wrestling with everything. I mean, he sees merits in all of these, and he's just not really sure which. I mean, he doesn't believe in imprisonment without just trial and but there again, somebody with Gigaton that's done what he's done, court of public opinion. Yeah, he's just kind of sitting here with his head bouncing back and forth like he's watching a ping pong match against 5 different people at once.
He's looking up at the parents arguing across the table.
See, I agree very much with that. It's really just can like you say, can we hold enough people? And I don't even know if we could hold Destroyer. I just think he's probably too powerful just to get out.
Yeah.
So
can we hold enough people until we can actually right enough wrongs to get things back in motion?
Oof. So for the comic book scene that happened, maybe that statement was before I'm going to retcon that you said that before Liliana talked about Gigaton and the things that she was saying. Because the end of the scene, like the last page of the comic book panel in my mind, is Liliana says, "You say that about, do we have enough time? Can we contain Destroyer? Can we right enough wrongs in the justice system? And before we overcrowd our dimensional prison?" and then Liliana offers the words about Gigaton and his destruction, and then Socrates, this whole time you've seen genetic matching going back and forth, and he's like spinning and trying to do, and then a thing comes up on the screen of Gigaton when Liliana says Gigaton, and Socrates says, "What if this is not even the Gigaton we think we know?" And that's the end of the comic book panel. Did that make sense? That what I'm suggesting here?
It may not be the original,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah.
Didn't even get to make a reference to Ghostbusters and the Twinkie, but okay.
Oh, I think you just slid it in there. You slid it in there. I hope you all aren't disappointed that we didn't do any table combat. I feel like we advanced the story and the characters in a really meaningful way. So I hope you all had a good time tonight.
Yeah, that
Yep.
was cool.
I do have something to add.
Sure.
Back to the vignette. I didn't realize that there's a problem with looking at a family tree that contains 32 Victorias, 72 Edwards, and all of that. I was apparently looking at the wrong Edward, and the one you picked happened to be her uncle.
Her uncle?
Her uncle.
Oh no! I didn't mean to kill your uncle.
That's all right. I'd written down Edward and Catherine, and I'm looking around going,
Oh,
I looked at the wrong Edward.
oh. So you didn't call your uncle? You called your father?
I called my father, his
Okay.
brother.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's heavy.
Oops.
This is an
No, that's good.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
drama.
That's story. It's comic books.
Yeah.
Just an awesome session tonight. Lots of fun to get these vignettes out and get to pull your background characters in. I don't know. Did you pick up on the vulnerability, like the light blast? I think that's something that's meaningful for Liliana too, right?
It is. And I almost, when I wanted to introduce my character a little bit, I normally wouldn't have said anything about it, and I'd forgotten. But Ghost talked about being, the essence of the sun. One of the things in Liliana's history is she was actually born during a solar eclipse.
Ah,
So she is the opposite of that. She was born during the darkness. Whether that has anything to do with what's happened in her life, unclear. But it's one of the things that has caused her to study astronomy and the stars.
Interesting.
It's one of the few knowledge skills that Ghost actually has.
So one thing that I should have said, at the mention of could we contain Gigaton, transporting him while he's not unconscious, that kind of thing, that problem has been something that RuneForce has been very aware of. RuneForce is an inventor, very much an Elon Musk type, but now that he's got the cosmic energy in him and the knowledge of the Kalian civilization, he's been trying to tackle bigger problems than his previous small problems, profit-based problems, and he would probably ask for assistance. He's got a device, like a token device that he's created, that he has been able to imbue it with energy that is like a reverse, like a dark matter, like a void, that basically acts like a drain. But he wants to be able to have it connect to like the nervous system. Like when you place it on it, he wants it to connect to the nervous system, and he doesn't know about that enough. He could probably research it, but if anyone in the team, he looks
Yeah,
at
Sand Crab
Cypher.
has
Yeah,
biology and stuff like that. He could help with that.
Yeah, he looks at Sand Crab and asks, and he basically brings the device. He's got two, and they're about this.
Interesting.
They're the size of his hand, like they're little tokens that would go into the hand, and basically they're almost like what you would put on people whenever you're reading an EKG, like that you stick them on, and they have the void energy in them, but he can't figure out how to connect them to the nervous system yet. So if you're willing to help with that, he's an out of character. He's got the points spent for 2 recoverable charge, constant drain, and they also cause the person to fly at 1 inch off the ground. So basically hovers them off the ground unconscious.
Hmm.
He would. Sandcrab would definitely be interested in trying to help him develop that type of technology.
Very cool. So maybe I can introduce that in a future, instead of having to pulverize our opponents, we can tag them with one of these, whatever tokens, and it will drain their stun. It's a stun drain, constant,
I'll assume that you already built the power.
Yeah. I don't know that I've built it properly, but I would share it.
Send it to me, and I'll take a look at it and see what I can do to add to it.
Very cool. Lots of really cool role play. I want to give extra experience tonight. So instead of our typical 3 or 4 point session tonight, we have an agreement for the new for Liliana that's double experience until you get to 50. So 8 for you. I hope you enjoy the experience point spins. Anyone who writes a journal, there's a whole lot of content to work with now and storylines. And if anyone's interested in investigating any of the things, I would be glad to do little sessions for those two. Maybe short sessions where we get on a table and we do combat for a couple of folks, 2 3s. Because I think a lot of you all had outcomes that could have turned into storylines. So if you want that, just let me know. But otherwise, 4 experience points for everybody, additional for journaling, 8 for Liliana, and we will game again soon, I'm sure. Unless
it was good. Lots of good prep. You had good prep on this. It was very nice.
Thanks a lot, guys. Really
Thank you.
Yeah, good game.
Thanks a lot. Y'all have a good evening. Take care.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Night, everybody.
Night.